All right, welcome everybody listening from all around the world, all around this beautiful blue-green planet we call Gaia. Welcome everybody listening here in Australia, this beautiful country of ours. Welcome to the Mystic Drop, where each week we try and journey down the road less traveled by, as the great Robert Frost once poetically put. I am your host, Roberto Roya. Joining me today is Joe Fernandez. Joe was born in Mozambique in 1970. His family were kicked out of the country in 1975 for political reasons. Before moving to Australia, Joe moved to South Africa and spent 2 years in the South African Defence Force, with the last 18 months of service involved in military intelligence. He is a father and devoted husband and has spent the better part of 10 years attempting to find the truth and the real reasons for our existence, the meaning of life, and why we are here. He began his degree in crime and criminology, but had to stop after 2 years for personal reasons. Joe is the founder and host of the YouTube channel, the Zodiac Killer Inside series. And I am honored to have on the show, Joe. How you going?
Good, Robin. I'm honored to be here with you today. Thanks for having me.
It's a real pleasure. Now, before we get started, we've got a mystic drop incantation we like to share with our first-time guests. And it goes like this. We are two cosmic spiritual beings sitting around the campfire. Two drops of light from the Great Spirit. Truth is our path and wisdom is our teacher. We start with a salute. And now let our magic flow. All right, Joe, thank you so much again for taking the time to be with us today. Before anything, I'd like to congratulate you on your channel because I feel like you're doing some really important work there. There I could, reading your bio, we could go into your life story there, and maybe we could keep that for another time because it's fascinating reading your journey. But we're gonna focus on the Zodiac case. How did it all start for you?
Just reiterating what you said, I want to thank you for having me on. I think we're discussing something that's really important and something that's been part of my life for the last sort of 5 years. I never went searching for the Zodiac case. This damn thing, quoting Arthur Lee Allen, this damn Zodiac had a knack of finding me, and I when I saw it and when I found it, I dove into it immediately, and from that moment I was I think in a way destined to find the identity of the individual that was behind all these murders and all these letters and cards that were mailed in the Californian state during the late 60s and carried on in the 70s. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, and people know, if people that have watched my series, they know that I pull no punches when I reveal that I know the identity of the Zodiac Killer. And the name of the person that I believe is involved in the case, the person that created this whole thing, is none other than the man by the name of Gareth Penn, who resides in Seattle as of today, at least as I know. Now, over the years, there's been a collective that have called or named Gareth Penn an attention-seeking whore. Excuse the language, but this is how it's come across. And a man that's loved to include himself in the Zodiac case, and a man that was seeking for attention. But I look at things differently, and I have a question here that I've never asked before, but I'm going to ask it today. Now, Gareth Penn resides in a country where people can go to jail or people can go to the electric chair on circumstantial evidence alone. That's a known fact. If you go and read if you read criminal statistics, and if you delve into the world of criminality in the United States, and if you read court cases, and if you read or if you watch certain aspects of what their criminal system is all about, There are people today on death row. There are people that in the past have died because of circumstantial evidence. So here's a question that I have, and this is what I want a lot of the non-Gareth Penn believers to answer, and that is, why would Gareth Penn be prepared to die for something he knew is a lie? So let me ask that again. Why would Gareth Penn be prepared to die for something he knew to be a lie? Anyone that studies psychology will know that people don't die for what they know is a lie. For example, if you tell me that there's a pink elephant next to you and the evidence clearly shows that there's no pink evidence there, that there's no pink elephant standing next to you, would you be prepared to die for what you knew to be a lie? It just doesn't happen that way. When I look at scripture, and I've, as you said, I've spent the last 10 years trying to find out who we are and why we're here on this beautiful planet of ours. The apostles and disciples of Jesus Christ, they died, they were martyred for what they knew to be the truth. They refused to worship the emperor and they were martyred. All right, so they claim to have seen the risen Christ and they died for that belief. Because I assure you, the apostles understood that Jesus was a charlatan or some sort of wacko, they would have been on their feet kissing the emperor's feet all the way up to his ankles. But not, they weren't wavering. They believed the Christ had risen, and they went to their death knowing or believing in their system that what they saw was the truth. So when you look at these, at both of these components, I don't understand why Gareth Penn would be prepared to follow that same path of going all the way, that there could be a chance of all the circumstantial evidence that people over the years might have been able to dig up through all the clues he's given through his books, through his writings, that he'd be prepared to take that step where he could go to jail or, in fact, the electric chair for something he knew to be a lie. As I said, anyone that studies psychology knows that it just does not happen. It's never happened before, and it'll never happen again. So that's an interesting part, an interesting subject, and it's something that a lot of people haven't actually thought about it. Now, the other problem I have, Rob, is there's a lot of people walking around the world like this. I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. Blind faith is the mother of all evils. You know, people that walk around with blind faith, they get their lunch eaten, they get their lunch taken away from them. So we should all be skeptical. We should all have a look at the evidence that's presented and then make our decisions. Just don't believe something because somebody just says it and you've got to believe it.
Yeah.
Look at the evidence that person's presenting, or whatever, whoever is presenting that evidence, and then make that decision. Not just because some president tells you this, or some prime minister, or Joe, or whatever. Study the evidence that the person's presenting you. Don't blindly believe. Be skeptical, and then make that decision. Is this guy telling me the truth, or is he in fact telling me a lie? If he's telling you a lie, mate, just don't follow that narrative or don't follow that rhetoric. But if he's telling you the truth, you should say, or you should be able to rationalize, because we've been given a powerful gift called the brain, and you should be able to say, okay, what this guy is saying, or this person, or that person, or this group is telling me is in fact correct. So yeah, there's substance in what he's saying, so I should follow those principles.
And I've always said with hearing when the truth is spoken, you can feel it. You can feel it in your,
absolutely,
in your bones. You know, the hair on your skin.
100%. And as I've said in the past, Rob, I'm not doing this for any personal gain. I don't want money in my life. Money means nothing. Right? I'm not motivated by money. I need money to survive, and that's where I am. I don't need any extra. As if I can give this today my daily bread, I'm happy, mate.
Yeah, that's it.
The Zodiac Case to me is not something that I began for. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to make a fortune. I can make a fortune out of this, so I can write a book. No. In my heart, is the real reason for why I'm doing this, because there are victims, there are families, and I believe there's a child involved in all of this.
Yeah, which we'll get to. But
Absolutely.
For people that don't know, who is Gareth Sewell Penn, and why is he your number one suspect in this case?
Yeah. Well, Gareth Penn is, that riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. He was born in Carmel by the Sea, in the state of California on January 1st of 1941. And the interesting thing is that we share the same birth month. I was born on the 26th of January. He was born on the 1st. And Michael Henry O'Hare, the man that he accuses as being the Zodiac Killer, was born on the 23rd of January. So that's Gareth Penn talks about coincidence as well. That's an amazing coincidence. If we look at if we use Gareth Penn's analogy of using a wizard alphabet, what the wizard alphabet is when you write from A to Z, and then you reverse the alphabet underneath that is the letter A, or the number 1, and the last letter, the letter Z, the 26th letter of the alphabet. And Michael O'Hare is number 23. So it's an interesting thing. Look, is from what I've been able to gather and all the studies that I've done over the years, Gareth Penn is the only individual that I believe is responsible for the event. All the information that I've dug up, and remind yourself that I'm sitting in Australia. I'm not living in the United States, so my hands are tied regarding certain information that I've tried to gather. I've had to play a game myself to try and dig up information besides the information that's available on the World Wide Web. So it's been quite a journey. He graduated from Campbell High School in 1958. He then began studying at Berkeley University. He received I forget the name of the scholarship that he received to study a Fulbright scholarship to study in Germany.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, he had been to Germany twice, and the last time he was there is when he got drafted into the United States Army, and he was flown back to the United States, where he began his military training at Fort Dix. And subsequently, he then became an artillery survey instructor at Fort Sill in Oklahoma. Married and divorced 3 times. One of his wives died. The consensus online, and I can't prove it, but some people say that there might be some mystery behind her death. I don't know. I'm not going to jump into that because I've not been able to dig anything up. So it's just pulling it out there. Having had contact with one of his ex-wives, I mean, she told me that the man has got a brilliant mind, but he's got a heavy heart at his core. So, and when I began seeing who he was, what he did, and I began analyzing the Zodiac case, the letters that were mailed, the cards that were mailed, I began seeing aspects of what the Zodiac was writing and what the Gareth Penn was writing. So there were stark similarities, or there were parallels between both individuals, Gareth Penn as the civilian,
yep,
and Gareth and the Zodiac in his letters and cards. And when I was never, I mean, I spent probably a good 2 years on the background, just studying, reading what people were saying online. I hadn't joined any forums or anything. I hadn't begun the channel. So I wanted to know a little bit more about the Zodiac case. And when the name Gareth Penn came along, and when I understood that the guy had been in the military and he had been in artillery surveying, I had done a precursor or study of the cards. I knew that there was something to do. I could sense a military sense or a military component to the cards that were mailed. And the deeper I began delving into this guy's life, the pieces of the puzzle just began slowly just interlocking one another.
Yeah.
And hence I'm here today. One thing I want to do today as well, just before we keep going, Rob, is I've got a surprise for you and the audience, I want to present the true and only solution to as what is known the 13-hole card, which was mailed by the Zodiac on Monday, October 5 of 1970. So I've kept this for a time when it was appropriate to discuss it. My channel, I haven't paid much attention to my channel. I mean, a lot has happened in my life over the last 12 months. I mean, I lost my dad last year, and I lost complete interest in. Yeah, it's all right, mate. I lost complete interest in the case. I was more, I was in a way mourning the death of my father, and the Zodiac case took second stage. So it took me a while to get over it, and I've had the solution for a while, and I just haven't had the motivation to bring it out there. So, but I'll do it today, and I'll show it to you and the audience.
Yeah, beautiful. And then we'll get that. I know you had a new revelation to share, and we'll get that to that a little bit later. But we'll do some groundwork in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know on your channel you've actually recorded the conversation that you had. You actually called Gareth Penn on the phone. You recorded it and you published that on your channel. So I know you've had private and public talks with Gareth on the phone. If you had the opportunity to sit across from Gareth face to face, what would you say to him? And how would you want the conversation to flow?
I hold no animosity against the guy. In fact, I from what I know about the guy, I hold his intelligence that I regard, because I perceive a man is up there in matters of intellect, up there with the best. But I do abhor the actions that the Zodiac took with the killing. So in a way, I'm attracted to that intellect. I'm attracted to that scholarship, but I'm also I can't accept the fact that so many innocent people lost their lives at the hand of a man that had something to prove to the world and to himself, that he could surpass all past authors that have written great books. This is the whole thing about the Zodiac case. The Zodiac case is about the Zodiac himself, the person, is about, the way I see it, is someone that is extremely well educated, has done a lot of reading, he's read manuscripts, he's read everything that we've had throughout antiquity, and he wanted to create something, a body of work that was going to surpass all those previous authors. And the only way you could do it was to mark this Zodiac phenomena with murder, because it's never been done before, and I assure you it's not going to get done ever again. So if I had to ask Gareth Penn, I would ask him, why hasn't he actually come out, and why has he waited so long to tell the world the story? Because I believe he wants to tell his story, but you will only tell it when he's prepared to do so. It's not because Joe is asking him to do it, or Joe keeps showing everybody that the circumstantial evidence that he finds all keeps pointing to one person. He'll only do it when he's ready to do it. So in a way, I would probably ask him, why has he done it? Why go through such extremes to do what you've done? At the end of the day, we can also hypothesize, and we can talk about it, but he knows the reasons why. He's the only person that can provide me and you and the entire world and the authorities as to why he created the Zodiac case. And the inclusion of Michael Henry O'Hare, as I've mentioned in the past, Michael Henry O'Hare was just the scapegoat that he had to include in his work, so he could reveal his story without, in a way, self-incriminating himself, which he has. But Michael Henry O'Hare, when Penn found similarities between his life and the life of Michael Henry O'Hare, he had the man that he needed to build his story and present it to the world. So, yeah, that's, in a way, that's what I would like to ask him. I mean, I'm not. One thing, just changing subjects, Rob, just trying to understand where I'm going with this. Over the last 10 years, people have asked me two types of questions. And the first question is, how didn't Jesus teach you to turn the other cheek? And the other part of the question is, Joe, how do you know that the scriptures are in fact accurate and true? And to the first part of the question, I answer, and I've had this question thrown at me sometimes in the comment section of my channel, because I retort in kind. I don't hold back. I see things as they are, and I'm just, what you see is what you get. I'm not motivated by political correctness, And to those people, I say, yeah, Jesus did teach me to turn the other cheek, but that doesn't mean I'm to become a doormat for something to do as they please, what they feet on, defecate on, and treat as they want to. Now, for example, I get home one day and I walk up into my room and I see a guy assaulting my wife. Am I supposed to turn my cheek the other way and tell him, no, just carry on doing what you're doing. I'm just going to go wait downstairs. Jesus told me to turn the other cheek, so I'm a born again Christian. So, keep doing. And then a few days later, I get home and there are three guys ransacking my home. Am I supposed to tell them, oh no, just keep going, guys. I'm just going to take a quick drive down the road, hire a truck, come back. You can load everything on. And I'm a born again Christian. I was taught to turn the other cheek, and then I'll just drive you to where you want to go. Right. So people have to, this is where that blind faith comes into play. Don't just believe what you see or what you read. Interpret it and apply it to your life. Now, the other question that people, the answer to the second question is, Joe, how do you know the scriptures? And the reason I'm doing this, Rob, is because it's going to lead me to this card.
Yeah.
And people ask me, Joe, how do you know that the scriptures are in fact accurate and true? And I tell the guys, look, guys, I use 4 tests that prove, when I'm trying to prove the authenticity or the veracity of a manuscript, I use 4 tests. It's internal consistency, literary style, archaeological evidence, and manuscript evidence. Internal consistency regarding the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are there any contradictions? No, they aren't. What they are is differences of interpretation or on how the authors have told the story. For example, if I get 100 people today and I put them inside a room and I tell them to write a 1-page paragraph explaining their feelings inside the room, what they've experienced and what they see, I guarantee you that 98% are going to provide a different account of the experience inside that room. It doesn't mean they're contradicting one another. It means that they're providing a different view of what the experiences have been. So that's internal consistencies. Literary style. Are the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John written in the land of Nod, winking, blinking, and Nod went on a boat ride? No, they're not fantasy. The Gospels are not written as fantasy. They're written as what is known historical narrative. In other words, in this place and at that time, Jesus did this and Jesus said that. So it's pretty important when people are studying documents to understand the style that document's been written in. If it's fantasy, read it as fantasy. If it's mythology, read it as mythology. If it's historical narrative, read it as historical narrative. And if it's any other type of narrative, read it. If it's poem, read it as poem. Yeah. The third test I use is archaeological evidence. Right? Did Jesus take a boat ride off the island of Atlantis? No. Jesus took a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee, a verifiable water source to this day. And then the last one is manuscript evidence. We have today over 5,200 Greek manuscripts or pieces of Greek manuscript that agree to an infinitesimal degree that the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John provide an accurate account of the way Jesus lived, taught, died, and rose from the dead. So that's the test that I use when I'm trying to authenticate a manuscript or whatever document to a book. All right. Now, what I've done is I've taken that and I've applied that same method to the work of the Zodiac and of Gareth Penn. So if I start again with internal consistency, does the work of Gareth Penn have any contradictions in it? No, it doesn't. It, in fact, correlates the work of the Zodiac, but what there are is differences. For example, Rob, when Gareth, in a certain passage in time 17, when Gareth Penn is talking about the Lake Berryessa incident where the Zodiac wore a black cloth hood, he tells everyone that he wore a black cloth hood with a white circle in the front. A few chapters later, he's talking about the same incident, but now he tells his people that, tells the readers that the Zodiac wore a black cloth hood with a white circle embroidered in gold thread in the front. So he's providing us two accounts of the same incident, but he's giving us two different perspectives. No contradictions, just two different perspectives. Literary style. Has Gareth Penn written same in the land of Nod, winking, blinking, and Nod went on a boat ride? No, he's not. He's used simile, he's used metaphor, he's used historical narrative as well. So as once again, people have to learn to interpret what the author is in fact saying. If it's mythology, read it as mythology, and so on. Archaeological evidence. Did the Zodiac murder people on secluded roads in the island of Atlantis? No, he did not. He murdered people in verifiable places today throughout the Californian state. And the last one is manuscript evidence. We have today close on to 24 communications, letters and cards mailed by the Zodiac that prove that he was responsible for the crimes he committed by things that he wrote in his letters that only the killer could have known, and by the mailing of a tale of Paul Stein's shirt to the authorities, where he mailed this 3 times. So only the person that could have been at those places at that time could have in fact known about the crimes. And there's still, today, there's still a piece of shirt that hasn't been mailed, which I believe is being held back for when that big revelation day comes along. So that's the test that I use, Rob, to verify not only manuscripts, but also to verify that the work Gareth Penn is providing us and the work that the Zodiac's given us is in fact accurate. Now, the other interesting thing, Rob, is that people find it so strange how, when I say that Gareth, when I mention numbers and all these esoteric components about the stuff that I find in the letters and cards, what people don't realize is that as early as 1942, there was a poet, an Argentinian poet by the name of Jorge Borges, that wrote a novel called Death in the Compass, which includes the type of killings that I see associated in the Zodiac Killer case. So people have spoken about this since 1942 and even prior to that. And there's nothing strange about people writing in code. People have been writing in code for hundreds of thousands of years. You know, there was a stage in life when the Catholic Church had a massive hold on what people could say or do. So people had to find a way of surpassing that stranglehold that the church had. And this is where writing in code became necessary. People had to communicate in fear of being, called heretics by the church. They had to find a secret way of communicating. So why can the Zodiac not use a secret way of communicating? Why do people find this so hard to comprehend? That we have a man with this amazing intellect, and that used this amazing intellect to compile a murderous game that included the same principles that all these past people like Francis Bacon, as the series that I've got now on my channel, cracking the Zodiac code, cracking the Shakespeare code, that Francis Bacon and Shakespeare were hiding secret knowledge in their works. It's there in plain sight.
Mm.
And it's funny how I see the parallels between the work being presented by, and the people that have watched that series of the work, the cracking the Shakespeare code. I see the parallels between what Peter Umson is doing into what I'm doing myself. And now Dr. Robert Crumpton, because his mind is not attuned to what Peter's presenting him, he tries and dismisses his work as, no, it's just fantasy. And it's not, it's right there in plain sight.
Mm.
It's just that although the guy's a PhD, he's got a PhD degree in Shakespeare, his mind is not attuned to finding the clues that Peter Umson is presenting him.
Mm.
And this is the same problem that I've had with my series, is trying to get people to understand that I understand I understand what the Zodiac presented us. I understand his clues, I understand his taunts, I understand his mind, I understand what he was trying to do. And I've tried putting that understanding in a simpler form as I could.
Yeah. And
people still, even the authorities, they don't seem to believe that what I present is in fact accurate. But we've all got different opinions. That's fine. I keep believing what I do.
Yeah.
And people are allowed to believe what they want. At the end of the day, there can only be one person that's right amongst all this.
Yeah,
exactly. There can't be multiples. Only one person has got only one person over the last 50 years has presented work that does in fact prove the work of the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Only one. And like I said, and there's been myriad of a plethora of books written about the Zodiac case, where everybody's father and uncle and mother and grandmother and auntie is the Zodiac killer, But at the end of the day, only one person can be right. So we'll just have to wait and see who that person is.
That's right. And we're on the journey, and what you've presented and on your channel especially is I believe is really groundbreaking. Going back to evidence, what I found really compelling on your channel is that you have come across a broadcast video of an individual walking across the street in the time where the Zodiac was supposed to meet with Melvin Belli at the thrifty store. Can you expand on this story and how you came across the video and why it's such an important piece of evidence?
Luck, I suppose. Yeah. I spent a lot of time on YouTube and all around the internet looking for footage of that era. I wanted to know what people were doing. Although I was born in 1970, I was still a kid. So I wanted to know a little bit more about what the San Francisco of the 1960s, of the late 1960s was, what people were doing. We've all heard about the flower power and the love was in the air and back then, but I wanted to know a little bit more about that time.
Yeah.
Because when I investigate something, I do it to the best of my capabilities, and this comes out of the training that I received in the military. We as a trained soldier, we were taught not to leave any stone unturned.
Yeah.
So when I do something, and I've carried that mentality with me all my life, I try and when I do something, I do it to the best of my capabilities. So I began just researching and watching videos. I spent hours upon hours of watching videos about people in San Francisco in the Haight-Ashbury district. And then I came across this footage of this TV crew documenting or doing a report across the thrift link store where the Zodiac was alleged to have met Melvin Belli. And Rob, it was almost instantaneously. Sometimes people, it just, as soon as that guy that I saw walking from the right-hand side of that image, and it just caught. I mean, I was looking at the cameraman, and I was listening to what he was saying, and I mean, I was startled. I was like, man, that's the Zodiac. I don't know why that immediately came into my mind, and I saw the guy, and I saw what he was wearing. He was wearing the same clothes, the same type of pants. He was wearing boots. You can see him wearing boots. I have analyzed that footage I've spent countless hours. I've slowed it down. I've done everything possible. I've studied his head movements. I've studied his body. I've studied all the characteristics of that individual that came into focus when that reporter was doing that report from across the Thrifty Link store. And I understood, in my heart, I understood this man. He's the Zodiac Killer. And that man on that footage is Gareth Penn. I've studied I've looked at his body composition. I've studied Gareth Penn through other documentaries, the TMC or the TLC documentary. I've analyzed his side profile on that documentary, and I analyzed the side profile of that individual that comes into focus when he comes from the right hand side of the picture, and then he turns, he looks to see if there's any traffic coming, and he turns, he walks straight towards the camera, and then he veers off. That to me shows me a man that's taunting. Mm-hmm. The Zodiac was known as he used to taunt the authorities. He was in that business of taunting the authorities. So I don't believe, a lot of people believe it was just a random person that just walked across the street. I don't believe it. I truly and I have tried for years to try and get that footage forensically analyzed by the relevant people, and I just can't. I just have not been able to. I've written to the ABC in the United States, but they won't release the footage to me because I'm not a resident of that country. So my hands are tied. But I have asked the authorities to have the image or to have that footage digitally analyzed, because I assure you, if we can get a clear image of that dude's face, that person there is Gareth Sewell Penn in 1969. And I've shown photos on my channel. There's actually a photo of when Gareth Penn was in his 30s. He had such a youthful look about him. He didn't look 30 to me. He looked more like a guy in his early or mid 20s. You know, he looked very youthful. So I'm certain that the guy that walked across the street from that daily store, that came in, showed himself with his hands in his pocket, walking, is none other than the Zodiac Killer and none other than Gareth Penn.
I must admit, when I first saw that, I just kept rewinding and just kept playing it over and over and over again, and I was blown away by that. And why don't you think that the authorities will? You know, I know you've spoken to a detective in the local area where it all happened, and where close to where Gareth is. Sorry.
Yeah, no, the detective is actually from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, which is south of the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
And the reason why I spoke with that detective was because of what I believe also happened with the murder of Nikki Alexandra Benedict.
Yeah.
In 1967. But
which we'll get to.
Yeah,
but,
correct.
What I was saying is that he's actually, I know he's actually gone and spoken to Gareth. So
according to Gareth.
Yeah. And so why don't you think that the authorities won't take this video and analyze it and get that picture of this individual?
Rob, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not asking for anybody to reinvent the wheel here. We're not going back to the abacus days where we're counting numbers with little stones.
Yeah.
It's a simple process. Just get the damn video and get the damn thing analyzed, mate.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, you got the guy.
And you're happy to, if you're wrong, you're happy to
100%.
Exactly.
100%. I have no, as I've said all along, if I'm wrong, I will be the first person to come on here, and mate, even if I have to get on a plane, and I will go in, I will apologize to if I've made a mistake, which I believe I haven't. I believe I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
But if I've made a mistake, if I'm completely wrong about my investigations, mate, I'll be the first person to put up his hand and say I'm truly and honestly sorry for what I've done and the pain and hurt I have caused so many people.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's fair. That's 100% fair. Okay, so going to that again, just going back to that video, I think it needs to be. I think it needs to happen somehow, some way. Somebody from America has to analyze that video and just put a little bit of time into it. And because it's,
you know what, Rob, the authorities are more preoccupied, mate, in doing what's not right. You know, this thing's been around for 50 years. Someone comes along and presents them proof that might allude to the identity of the person that's responsible for these crimes, and they're just not prepared to do a damn thing about it, mate. I just can't get that. But law enforcement, you know what the problem is with law enforcement? They want to be judge, jury, and executioner. That's their preoccupation.
Yeah.
And it's not only in the United States, but it's throughout the world.
Yeah.
That whole system is corrupt to the core. And it's a sad thing to say, but it's completely corrupt to the core. And when you've got a system that's so hell-bent on being judge, jury, and executioner, we've got, you know, what hope is there for us as civilians, mate, as citizens?
Yeah.
There's no hope.
Yeah.
There's no hope.
That's it. So going to the story of Nikki Benedict, the little girl who was tragically, her life was taken away. How did that come into your life, and how did you connect it to the Zodiac?
The word teen alerted me to when I saw the word teen. I mean, everybody knows that teen is a abbreviation for teenager.
And you're talking about the Halloween card that was posted.
The Halloween card, yeah,
right,
correct.
Okay.
The Halloween card. So what he's done is on the palm of the one skeleton is he drew in the number 14, and then on the other side he wrote the number 4 with teen next to it. And when I saw the word teen, I began thinking, could it be that this dude has in fact killed more people, or somebody else that we don't know about? Now, you've got to remember one thing. A lot of people today still don't think the Zodiac Killer was responsible for the murder of Cherry Joe Bates down in Riverside. I think he was. All right? I think he was. And he never made any direct announcements about Cherry Joe's murder at all. He wrote secret little messages within his letters and cards that alluded to that murder in 66. But he never came out in a letter and he wrote, I'm the guy responsible for killing Cherry Joe Bates in Riverside. And when Paul Avery, the reporter from the San Francisco Chronicle, he got reports from a guy that this guy believed the Zodiac was responsible for the murder of Cherry Joe Bates. So Paul Avery began investigating the case. And he in fact went down to Riverside. And when he came back after the meeting with the cops down in Riverside, he then wrote a column on his paper about the Cherry Joe Bates incident, and how he believed that there was an association between her murder and the Zodiac Killer, which was active up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
Now, I believe the Halloween card was in fact a taunt by the Zodiac, and I've mentioned this in the past in my channel, that he looked at Paul Avery and he said, "Oh, really, Mr. Avery, you know, you're such a bright old chap. Well, I'm going to send you a card about another murder that I've not committed, that I've committed, but I've not announced. So it's up to you to now try and solve this card." And this is why I believe the Halloween card was sent as a revelatory piece of information alluding to a murder that he had committed, but a murder that was so, in a way, sinister because of the age of the victim, that he hadn't revealed it to anybody.
Yeah.
So it was his little secret, only he knew about it, but he threw it out there in the open to see if Paul Avery from the San Francisco Chronicle was clever enough to see through his, understand the Zodiac's clues. And of course, I saw 10 and I began, and I thought to myself, could it be that this guy is in fact, I saw the number 14, I saw 10, I thought, let me do just a quick Google search and try and establish if anybody around the age of 14 or around in that area, in that age bracket, had in fact been murdered in that sort of down south in California. And it wasn't even 20 minutes later, I got this thing on my screen about a girl that was murdered in 1967 in Poway. I didn't even know where Poway was, you know. I just saw Poway. So of course I do my research and I see, wow, Poway, this is only like 50 clicks or 60 clicks away from Riverside. And that's when everything started clicking. Then I tried finding out who the girl was. I read all the articles available. I then contacted the sister, who's still alive today. And when I noticed components about her murder that have been written over the years, and I saw that the individual tried slitting her throat. There were 2 stabs to the heart with a short knife. Those were all similar things that had taken place in Riverside with the murder of Cherry Joe Bates. And the more I delved into that card, then I started seeing the clues that related to Nikki's murder. That card is filled with clues that I believe are components that the Zodiac was telling us he had murdered Nikki Benedict. And I shared all those clues with the detective from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. They still have not come and revealed or add, you know, they're much like the Riverside Police Department. The Riverside Police Department has never believed that the Zodiac had any association with the murder of Cherry Joe Bates. They never have. Over the last 50 years, they've always been dead set in their mind that there's no association between the murder of Cherry Joe Bates and the Zodiac. And in fact, just recently, they released this chewed up and spat out article that allegedly in 2016, some dude came along and wrote them a letter saying that he's the guy that wrote the 3 letters to the press enterprise, the Riverside Police Department, and to Joseph Bates. And they've been able to link this dude through DNA evidence. You know, as I've said, Rob, don't blindly believe because somebody tells you so. Look at the evidence. Isn't it strange? Don't you find it interesting and strange that at the same time as this whole thing is happening with this whole big announcement, that some unknown person comes along and posts a $50,000, I think it's a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of the Zodiac Killer. The authorities are known for doing things like this. When they're trying to either distance themselves from a certain case, or when they're trying to draw the perpetrator from undercover. So this is, I don't believe that story one single iota. I don't care what they say, that they've got DNA. That can all be fabricated. There's nothing stopping the Riverside Police Department from fabricating a story because they're sick and tired of dealing with cooks that come along and write to them, go see them in person, send them emails that they know that their father, their mother, their uncle is the Zodiac Killer, and that he was responsible for Cherry. How many people can we begin to imagine that have in fact written or gone and see the Riverside Police Department in person, or have sent them emails or have written them letters regarding the Zodiac case? So you've got a police department that has never, ever entertained the possibility, never. And that's a fact, that's evidence. It's written, it's right there in plain black and white. I'm not making this up. Anyone who studies the case that knows about the Cherry Joe Bates' murder will tell you that Riverside PD has never, ever entertained the fact that the Zodiac was responsible for a murder. They've always had one suspect, and they've always set their sights on that suspect. Always. They've not looked at the Zodiac at all. And over the last 50 years, they must have had hundreds of thousands of people phoning and writing and going to see them in person regarding the murder of Cherry Joe Bates. So I believe there's two things I believe the Riverside Police Department has done here. The first one is distance themselves from the Zodiac case once and for all, because they're sick and tired of all the nonsense. And number two is to try and draw the individual from undercover. So, and the other thing I find amazing is that they make this huge revelation about the Zodiac not being involved, and yet it doesn't even make the homepage of their website. When I went into the Riverside PD, when I heard that they'd made all these amazing discoveries, and I went and looked at Riverside PD, there was no information on their homepage. I had to go searching through all the back channels of their website to try and find this amazing bit of revelation about the case. This case has been out there in the open for over 50 years. People from all around the world know about this case. And just recently we had Dave Orenchak and the dude from Melbourne, that mathematician, solved the 340 cipher. So this is a worldwide case. People, as soon as some bit of information like comes out in the open, it makes the media, TV cameras want to talk about it. They want to interview people. And here we have little old Riverside PD make this amazing, astonishing announcement about some bloke that we don't know who he is, that wrote a letter when he was a young bloke because he was all lonely and felt, he wasn't loved. So he just decided to write 3 letters to the Riverside Police Department, to Joseph Bates, and to the Riverside Press Enterprise, to include himself in the case because he felt lonely and he felt neglected. Oh, come on, Rob.
Yeah, no,
come on, come on, mate. This is what I'm saying, mate. Don't go around. I believe.
Yeah.
Look at the evidence.
No,
use the gift that God has given you. This thing up here is a powerful tool. Start using it.
And I also say here as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gut feeling.
Human beings are very gullible, mate. Be skeptical.
Yeah.
Be skeptical. Analyze the evidence. Study it. Understand, mate. Police these are common police ploys used. Even the detective from San Diego, when I was talking with a guy, and I was asking them, they were about to make an announcement on the day that Nikki died, on May 1st of 2000, and I think it was 2017 or 2018. They were about to make this announcement, and I asked him, "Why are you guys doing this?" And he said to me, "Because these are things we do in the police. When they're trying to activate something, when they're trying to either negate or trying to get the perp to draw him from undercover, they do things like these." So I'm absolutely do not buy that story from the Riverside PD. There's been no media coverage whatsoever. None of the news stations have gone and made a video. I mean, they didn't even do a press announcement. There was nothing. No. It was just an obscure bit of writing that was chewed up and spat out, thrown onto one of their back pages in their website, and that's where it is today. Didn't even make the own page. Come on, Rob. Let's be honest, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling you. Now, I understand, as we said before, you've got some new revelations that you've never shared before.
Yes, I do.
Please share, and I'm thank you for choosing the Mystic Drop to share this first time.
That's my pleasure. I hope you and your audience will be able to see it. I'll try and, I know my face is going to disappear, but I'll try and I'm looking at it through the screen, so I hope everybody will be able to. Is it too close to the screen, Rob, or is it okay?
Yeah, just maybe a little bit forward, just a little bit more forward.
A little bit forward, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's it. Yeah, perfect.
So this, over the years, this has been recognized as what is known as the 13-hole card. Some people call it the pace card, but I call it the 13-hole card because what he did is he punched 13 holes on the edge of the card. So that's the front of the postcard. And then on the back, that's what it came. Now, the photocopies that are available online don't have this red cross. I in fact drew that red cross in there because that's how this card was received by the authorities. There was actually a cross in red pasted on there as well. So I hope you can see that red card, that red cross. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah, you can. Okay. So this card was mailed on Monday, the 5th of October of 1970. And to best understand this card, we have to start over here in the front, because he's put a stamp on the edge here, and it's a 6-cent stamp, and it states, just bear with me a second, in the beginning, God. All right. And then he's written San Francisco Chronicle, and he's got the 13 holes. So when I saw that stamp, in the beginning, God, I began thinking, can there be some sort of scriptural reference to this card? And when I turned this card this way, I noticed a cross. So I thought to myself, could this guy be giving us any clue to scripture? Okay, everybody knows that a cross, Christ was nailed to a cross. Now, when we were at school, I was taught that a number above a number below means division. Okay, so when I divided 10, and I divided the number, so there's 10 holes on the top part, and there's 3 holes on the bottom. So when I divided 10 by 3, that gives me 3.3, and that's the number 33. Now, Jesus was nailed to a cross at the age of 33. Scholars are in agreement that Jesus was nailed to a cross at the age of 33. And the clue that alerted me to this was through the stamp, when he said, in the beginning, God. I mean, Jesus is God at the end of the day. He's one and the same. He called himself the I am, the great I am, right? But then I thought to myself, okay, so he's given us an allusion to Jesus. What else is there that could have the same significance or parallel to what is given me in the front of this card? And when I turned this around and I saw Monday, okay, in the scriptures, it's written that Jesus wrote on the first day of the week. And what is the first day of the week? Monday. Now, back then, according to Jewish law, the first day of the week was actually a Sunday. But we're not talking about back in the days when Jesus was around. We're talking about 1970. So I believe Monday is as a connection to the cross, okay? And that these numbers have a reference to Jesus Christ. But why? This is where we have to start understanding, because both these comments here in the red cross and the 13 holes on this side have a revelation regarding Arthurian legend. Now, anybody that studies Arthurian legend knows about the Knights of the Round Table. So now you have to think. Round holes, round table. And there are 13 holes. The first recorded account of the Knights of the Round Table was a book written between 1195 and 1215 called the Didote Percival, that recorded there were 13 Knights of the Round Table. And that's where I believe the pace isn't any slower. It's just one big 13th. Why would he say 13th? Makes no sense. This is an ambiguous comment. The pace. Pace is a unit of time, Rob. When we start analyzing the word pace, pace is a unit of time. So why would he say the pace isn't any slower? It's just one big 13th. That makes no sense. Now, the thing about ambiguous comments is that they cause vagueness and confusion in the mind of the person reading that comment. So we have to try and analyze what the Zodiac was telling us. Yeah, he was using an ambiguous comment to relate for us pace being a unit of time. So he was telling me, and this is me because I understand his clues, he was telling me that this card had something, this area had something to do with the 13th century. So he was telling me that the pace isn't in slow age, just one big 13th. And pace being a unit of time, he was saying time goes by, it's important for you to look at the 13th century. And why was it important to look at the 13th century? Because of this red cross. This red cross, if those that study Arthurian legend will know that Sir Galahad was given a white shield made by Evelake with a red cross, which Joseph of Arimathea had drawn in blood. Now, red signifies blood. Red signifies blood. Okay? And now, who was Joseph of Arimathea? For those people that don't know. Joseph of Arimathea was a rich man and a secret follower of Jesus Christ. And he actually gave his own tomb for Jesus' body to lay in. So can you see how the clues are now, the puzzle is now starting to come together? So we have a revelation about the age of Jesus on that side, 33. We've got 13 knights of the round table. And why would he write some of them fought? It was horrible. It had nothing to do with the victims. He's right. The knights of the round table did fight, and it was horrible.
Yep.
Some of them fought, it was horrible. He's right. So he was using that's another ambiguous comment. He wanted to have us believe that he was talking about the victims, but he wasn't. He was talking about the Knights of the Round Table, because the Knights of the Round Table fought, and it was an horrible thing, you know. And prior to this, there were two cards sent prior to this. One is known as the Penn card, and one is known as the Dragon card. When you put Penn and Dragon together, you got Pendragon. And who was Pendragon? Pendragon in Arthurian legend was the father of King Arthur.
Wow.
Now, the other thing, if we go back to the date here, and I'm going to tell you why the soul card, now that I'm thinking about it, the soul card was created as a means of self-identification, Rob. The Zodiac was in the business of self-identification. He wanted people to know who he was. But I'm going to get to that. I'm going to show you how he used scriptural components and Arthurian legend to provide us his identity. Now, why would he abbreviate the date, Monday and October? Had he in fact written Monday, the complete word M-O-N-D-A-Y, and October, we would have missed the clue that he was giving us. Because the clue that he was giving us is through the abbreviation of words. When words are abbreviated, they take on different meanings, okay? Now, anybody that comes from the United Kingdom, and there is, people have, over the years, have long believed that there's some sort of association between what the Zodiac wrote and the United Kingdom, and in fact, some people think from Australia, because the United Kingdom and Australia use the same, in a way, the same terminology. Just one second. So when we look, our brain is trying to look at Mon and think Monday because it's a date. However, the abbreviation MON, which is Mon, is a dialectal British variant of the word man. So that's a reference to man. Oct. Oct is in Latin, something that Gareth Penn knows all too well because he studied Latin. Oct means the number 8, but it also means, it's also an abbreviation for a term, for a word called octans, O-C-T-A-N-S. And octans is a constellation up in the sky. I thought to myself, oh, really? It's a nice constellation. Could it be that a trained artillery surveying instructor would know about octans? And could I find any reference to the word octans in any of the manuals from the United States military that's available online? And just excuse me, I'm going to put this down. Now, this is this is taken from the Field Artillery Survey Manual. It's called the FM6-2. This is the exact same manual that Gareth Penn would have used when he was at Fort Sill, Oklahoma between late 66 into late 67. And in this manual, just to show you, and just to show the audience, because you guys know that I like presenting everything clear, black and white. As you can see there, it's written Fort Sill. So this is one of their
Yep.
you see there?
Yeah, yeah.
Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So this comes out, this is part of the manual. So this is a chart, or one of the calculated charts of what a field artillery survey instructor would do. That's just to show you that it's from the same manual. This is available online. Anybody's more than welcome to go and read this manual themselves. And what did I find on this page over here?
Octans. Wow.
There we are. So octans is a constellation used by artillery surveying instructors, or they know that octans is in fact a constellation in the sky, and it's something used by the artillery in the United States. As you can see, there's octans right there.
Yep.
So that shows, to me, it shows me that what he was in fact telling me is that there's a man that knows something about octans. And the only man that I know that's associated to the Zodiac Killer case that knows about octans, that's a trained artillery survey instructor, is Gareth Penn. Now, the other thing, Rob, so we've now established that there's a component to the Knights of the Round Table, that there's a component to Jesus. He's also written over here, just on this, you turn this upside down. He's actually written the word FK over here. Got FK written on there.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see it. FK is not a word. It does not exist in any form of vocabulary. I don't care if it's English, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish. FK is not a word. So what was he telling me? When you use the wizard alphabet, which is the reversal of the letters from A to Z, Z to A, FK now becomes the letter, or the word up, UP. So this was a clue for me to look up. Something around here had something to do, there was a clue for me up, but up where? And it's up over here, PST. Because when you apply the same principle to the letter T using the wizard alphabet, this becomes the letter G. And when that becomes the letter G, now you've got the acronym for Gareth, G, Sewell, S, Penn, P. All right? Now here comes the most amazing thing of it all. Remember I said it's about self-identification. This card itself is about self-identification. So he's used the Knights of the Round Table to alert me about self-identification. I'm going to read you 13 names of the Knights of the Round Table that were presented in that Dot Percival, the book that was written between 1195 and 1215, which is the first recorded account of Knights of the Round Table. Over the years, the amounts have varied between 13 and 1,500. So the first recorded account was written in the same century, in the 13th century, as what the Zodiac wrote, the 13th. Why didn't he write 13? He wrote 13th. When we talk about centuries, you talk about the 13th century. We don't talk about the 13th century. So when you've got a component of time, pace, and 13th, it's a definite allusion to the 13th century. So when I understood that, I'm going to read it 13 names of the knights that were involved in, or the 13 Knights of the Round Table, and I want you to tell me which one you believe best suits what I'm telling you to, or the presentation that I've done today. So, but please forgive my pronunciation, because some of these are really old names that they're no longer in use. So in no particular order, we've got Sir Lancelot, Sir Gawain, Gawain, Sir Geraint, Geraint, Sir Percival, Sir Bors the Younger, Sir Lamorak, Sir Kay, Sir Bedivere, Sir Gaheris, Sir Galahad, Sir Tristan, Sir Palamedes, and the last one, Sir Gareth.
There it is. I was going to nearly say the Gahareth, that one there, but yeah, the last one is
Gaheris. You've got the last night. They in no particular order.
Yeah.
But I left his name for last.
Yeah.
We've got Sir Gareth as Gareth. So do you see how this whole thing fits like a glove? It's a self-identification card alluding to Gareth, to the name of Gareth Penn, to the name of Gareth Sewell Penn, by using. I mean, this, when I'm talking about an intellectual ethos, this is up there. This, to me, this is way off the chart, off the Richter scale. This is just brilliant. The way this guy was able to provide me the clues using references to scripture, using references to Arthurian legend, using the 13 round holes to represent the 13 knights of the round. The hole is round, isn't it? The round table.
Yeah.
It's a round hole. Giving us the red cross. This is one of the integral parts of this whole thing. Because had he not painted that cross red, I would have not been able to understand the connotation of where he was going with this revelation, or the clue that he was giving me.
So the cross was white, was it, or black? On the
no, when the police received this, they received it exactly like this, in red.
In red, okay.
In red.
Wow.
But of course, when you're making a photocopy to put it online, the red turns into black.
Oh, yeah, okay, fine. That's
you know what I mean.
That makes sense. So you colored it in red.
Yeah, so I've colored it in to show you guys as what this is exactly how the police would. No, actually, on the edge of the card, he also drew. He actually punched. It's not available here, but if you go and have a look at the original documentation on the files that are available online, you would have noticed that at the bottom on the edge here, he actually punched the sole bottom as well, and that's to provide to give the illusion of water.
Right.
Because when you punch round holes right next to one another, it represents water like waves.
Yep.
Which I have not been able to do here, because this is the only available copy I was able to get online to show you guys. So I actually took the time to color that cross in red to show it to you. This is how the San Francisco Chronicle received this card, with that cross in red. So of course, when you're making a photostat copy, the red's going to go, it's going to stay black. But reading the accounts of this card, the police did reveal that card was in red. When they received it, was marked in red. And red is the color of blood. So do you see how this guy used scripture and used Arthurian legend?
Yeah. And
he gave us all these clues to take me to the solution of his name, which is one of the knights of the round table, Sir Gareth. And then when you put the pen card with the dragon card together, so this card actually follows suit with the pen card, with the dragon card, and then you've got the 13-hole card. So this shows that component that I've been talking about for years, that the man that created the Zodiac Killer case is a man who has studied and knows about history of the past. He's attuned with Arthurian legend. He's attuned with scripture. Gareth Penn was an ordained minister from the Universal Life Church. And he used that knowledge that he has, that superior intellect to all of us, to provide us the clue to identity, or to bring us to his name. And this is how he's done it.
For anyone listening, I would urge everybody to go to Joe's YouTube channel, because the way what you've just seen here, how he presents his evidence and his information is brilliant. I think your mind looks at this whole case like nobody I've come across that I've researched. And
Rob, I believe
really fascinating, man.
I believe I've been given the gift to provide the world the solutions to the Zodiac case. And Just like I said to you, with Peter Hammonson being given that gift to be able to see the clues in the work of Shakespeare and Francis Bacon, this is what I believe has happened to me as well.
It's really, it's, and
You know, you cannot deny. You've got to follow. That's what I keep telling people. You've got to follow the evidence. Don't blindly believe because somebody tells you. I mean, I'm presenting you the solution, and I'm giving you the. You have to learn. You've got to know. You've got to study.
Yeah.
People have to study. This is a work of amazing literary know-how. And it's all created to give us the name of the individual that created, because I cannot believe that even if this was just a random act of coincidence, that I was going to have the name of Sir Gareth in the Soul Solution again. It's impossible.
There's just so many links to him, and the pieces of those puzzles that you put together is
100%. And I'm not making this up to fit my person.
Yeah,
I'm using the clues he's given me, mate.
Yeah.
This is what people don't seem to
realize. You're using the information that he's presented.
And I'm using this. I'm using this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm using this.
I think that you're using much more than that. I think you're using your something in your soul.
And it comes from the heart, man. And it comes from the heart. You know, like I said, God knows I'm not doing this for personal gain.
Yep. The
ultimate thing is for Gareth Penn to come onto repentance, mate. He has to repent.
Well, God wants all of us. I was going to ask you the next question. What would you like to see moving forward?
Well, I want to see him repent. I want to see him come out and tell and prove to the world that what I'm telling, and show the world that what I'm telling is the truth. Because I know it's the truth. When you know it in your heart, there's nothing anybody can do that's going to change my mind, Rob. Nothing. Yeah. Gareth Penn has not denied being the Zodiac Killer. If you've heard that conversation I had with him on the phone
call that you had with him,
he didn't deny it. He had ample chance to deny it. He had ample chance to deny being the Zodiac Killer, right? I would have told him immediately, listen, pal, do me a favor. You are calling me a murderer. Not only are you calling me a murderer, but you alleging that I killed a child of 14. I want anybody to tell me where that denial came from Gareth Penn. Not a single iota. Why, Rob? Because as I said, he cannot deny. Gareth Penn is not prepared to go to the electric chair for something he knows to be a lie. This is what people have to understand. He's not prepared to. Why would Gareth Penn be prepared to go to the electric chair for something he knew to be a lie? It just does not happen that way. People go to the electric chair for what they know to be the truth.
What messages of hope would you like to give the victims of the families, especially the families of Nikki? What would you like to say?
Look, I don't know. The only person I've ever contacted was Nikki's sister, you know, and our conversations were brought to an end. I don't know why they were brought to an end. I mean, I was only trying to show her and the authorities that I believe that her sister was murdered at the hands of a heinous murderer, of a guy that, you know, was so hell-bent on murdering that he killed Nikki. So I just want him to know that there's still hope. You know, keep fighting. Don't lose hope. I believe we all allowed some form of justice in life, particularly those who have lost loved ones to murder. Justice is not revenge, Rob. Justice is a form of fairness. We need justice in this world, you know. And this is what I'm saying. It's incumbent upon the police to do the best they can to try and bring this individual to justice. I know that I don't have much to go on. I know that. But I have built an amazing circumstantial case, as what I've just shown you now with this 13-hole card, that all point down one avenue. And invariably is the name Gareth. So don't lose hope. I hope that he comes out in the open. I hope that he reveals all, because at the end of the day, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people left with mud on their face, mate. And the reason that I believe I'm right, Rob, is from the start, my intentions were true and crystal clear. They were from here, from the heart. I had in mind when I understood that there was a little child involved, mate. As a father, my whole context about the Zodiac Killer case changed, because now I wanted to know more, and I wanted to know why would this guy murder a 14-year-old girl down in Poway, and everything that's been presented has led me to believe that the Zodiac was in fact responsible for Nikki's murder. So there's nothing more I can say. There's nothing more I can do. I know the authorities can't go to a court of law with numbers and literary agendas. It just doesn't work that way. But it's out of all the circumstantial evidence that I've analyzed over the years, excuse me, out of all the stuff that I've read, nothing comes close to the solutions that I provide. That all go down one path, and that's to provide the identity. He was, as I've said, and I said earlier, the Zodiac was in the business of self-identification. He was giving us his name, but through obscure clues, through what he knew, through his intellect. And this is like Peter Amundsen had difficulty in getting that Dr. Robert Crumpton to understand what he was seeing. This is the same problem that I'm having people out there, police included, to understand what I'm seeing created in the Zodiac case. There's nothing more I can do. I'm living in Australia. It's out of my jurisdiction. It's in the United States. Well, but I do know that people in that country have gone to jail on circumstantial evidence. And this is why I keep saying, why would Penn be prepared to go to the gas chamber for something he knew to be a lie? People don't do that. No. Like I said, anyone that studies psychology knows people don't die for what they know to be a lie. People aren't prepared to do that. People die for what they know to be true. That's a conviction in us. If somebody tells me that, or if I tell you that this thing is gray, it's gray. And I'm prepared to die because it's gray. Now, if it was black, and the evidence showed that this shirt was in fact black, I wouldn't be prepared to die for it.
Yeah, that's right.
So it makes sense.
Joe, thank you so much. You're doing such important work, and I hope you keep it up. And I'd love to get you back and philosophize a lot more with new revelations that come out.
Yeah,
I'm honored to.
I'd love to come on if I do find anything extra. Like I've said, I've neglected the case. I've put it on the back burner, and I had this revelation available, and I was waiting for the right opportunity to bring it along. And funny enough, it's probably divine intervention that this whole thing happened. Yeah. That this blade of revelation had to come out in the open, and here we are. I mean, you came out of the blue. I didn't know who you were. You sent me an email wanting to know if I wanted to come on your show to do a presentation on the Zodiac Killer case. It's almost like this revelation was drawing you out and saying, contact this dude. He wants to show something about the Zodiac Killer. Yeah. It's almost like there's a force at work here that I don't know how to explain it.
Even as we've spoken in private, like I feel like I've spoken to you for ages,
forever. 100%.
I've never met you in person. So
yeah, 100%.
And as I've said to even other people that I've had on the show that I've never met from across the world, all these pieces, all these mysteries that I'm a sucker for mysteries. I'm a huge sucker for mysteries.
Yeah.
And as you said, I think there's some divine intervention going on with this whole thing and other mysteries as well.
It's not because of my born again Christianity. I don't think it's got anything to do with that. I believe that I was destined. We all have destiny. I believe in destination. To me, life is not meaningless, Rob. There's a meaning to life, and this is what I've discovered over the last 10 years that I've been studying scripture, and I've been trying to understand what is our reason for being here. Is it to make money? Is it to build a huge stock portfolio? Is it to progress in our careers? There has to be something. There has to be a meaning to life. Life is not ultimately meaningless, and the reason I say that is, I'm going to give you an example of two people, just quickly, but I know you want to go. I've got Mother Teresa, who was a saintly woman, who dedicated her life to feeding the poor and helping the needy in the slums of Calcutta in India. All right, so saintly woman, a devoted woman to the poor. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I've got someone like Adolf Hitler, who was an absolute monster, an evil man that sent millions of Jewish people to the gas chambers and to the furnace. My understanding of life is I cannot comprehend that those two people will be in the same place, in the fertilizer pit. They can't. It's impossible for a person who's so saintly, who's so dedicated to humanity, to the caring of the needy, that she's going to be in the same place, wherever that place is, as in the fertilizer pit, in the same place that Adolf Hitler is going to be. Because if life was meaningless, then why don't you and I just tomorrow why don't we go on a killing rampage? We might as well go on a killing rampage. Because if we don't get caught, there's going to be no payment for our actions. There has to be a judgment day when we all responsible, when we all have to account for our deeds in this world. And this is what people have got to try and understand. The great Albert Camus, I think Albert Camus as the atheist, he began grappling with there's more to life than atheism, because he wrote that if life was ultimately meaningless, why don't we just commit suicide?
Exactly. That's right.
You know what I mean? And then we've got Charles Darwin, a guy that believed in evolution as a process, writing in a letter, in light of the fact that monkeys have highly developed brains, why don't we trust the thoughts of a monkey? Think about that.
Yeah.
So these were two guys that looked at life as ultimately meaningless. There was no meaning to life because of their atheism. I mean, I've got many atheist friends, you know.
And I actually love having debates with. I've got atheist friends as well, and and I love having that debate with them and having that open conversation. But coming together at the end of the day and still
absolutely, and this is what we're doing.
That's
this
the
is what you
beauty
said
of where
to
we
me.
live.
Yeah, 100%. And and that's what I said, Rob. God has blessed all of us with an amazing, powerful tool called the brain. And we have to start exercising. We have to start exercising this thing called the brain. People don't go around, people shouldn't go around believing what people say without looking at the evidence as what they are saying. You know, we at an age now with this technology that we have available with the internet. Everybody's out there spruiking a different message, mate. And gullible people follow these weird and wonderful agendas that these people have in mind. You know, I'll look at going to scripture again, how people misrepresent scripture to support the evil deeds and the evil works. I mean, for example, white Christian slave owners in the United States use scripture to justify slavery and segregation and racism. They used it. And yet we have Martin Luther King Jr., a man that I absolutely adore, writing a letter when he was in jail in Alabama, where he wrote that there's a law above the law of the state of Alabama that dictates segregation, racism, and slavery is ultimately evil.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King understood that human law, mate, when you start dissecting human law is corrupt.
From the beginning.
Completely and utterly corrupt.
Yep.
Because there are hundreds of thousands of people in positions of power today who are complete and utter sociopaths.
100%. Well, that's why
that's in law enforcement, governments. That's the evidence.
That's why the world is how it is.
Rob, like I said,
these are those people in high power that have got the corruption and actually rule this world.
100%. I mean, I follow evidence. You know, I'm not here telling something that's just popped into my head. I look at the evidence and I analyze the evidence. So These same people that are setting the laws, complete sociopaths and psychopaths, and yet law enforcement is out there hunting the same sociopaths and psychopaths who are killers. You see?
Exactly.
To me, those people that are setting these laws and are sending people to the death chain, to the electric chair, knowing perfectly well that that person is innocent. And it happens all the time. The evidence is there.
Yeah.
To me, there's no difference between that individual and a serial killer that is out there murdering using a knife or a rope or fire, whatever. Serial killers are using instruments. People in power that are sociopaths and psychopaths that send innocent people to jail and to the death chair, they're using their power to commit these atrocities.
Exactly. That's their weapon.
That's their weapon. In my book, in what I know in life, that to me is a serial killer.
Yeah.
And yet they're in positions of power. And when you've got, as I said, when you've got law enforcement wanting to be judge, jury, and executioner, where are we heading as a society, Rob?
Exactly.
Where? When anybody can go into your house or my house and claim that we're responsible for doing a crime, they can pin forensic evidence on us, and we go, and that's it. In jail for something we've not done.
Yeah. We definitely have to get you back, brother, and philosophize on not just the Zodiac, but all this other stuff as well with the Cabal and everything. But we'll leave that for another time. But again, thank you so much for sharing your heart, your soul, your wisdom, and your beautiful mind.
No dramas, Rob. Thanks for having me, mate. I do appreciate it.
Not a problem. I'm Roberto Roya from the Mystic Drop. You've been listening to Joe Fernandez from the Zodiac Killer Inside series. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks, Rob. See you, mate.